You've probably seen a lot of private property advertised in the local papers and estate agents. But getting a rented place of your own can be expensive, and if you can't get one, you might be faced with some tough choices. To make it easier to get your own home in the private sector, we provide the Housing Aid Bond Scheme.
The Housing Aid Bond Scheme is a scheme which has been set up to enable residents of Nottingham City into affordable, high-quality private rented accommodation. We do that through the provision of a written guarantee bond to a landlord.
I first heard about the bond scheme through the tenant that I was renting my house out to. She asked me if it'd be okay if she used the bonding scheme, and so I looked into it.
I was living with my son and he was going to relocate to London with his job. Obviously I wasn't going to go, so I was literally going to be made homeless. So I went into Housing Aid, filled the forms in, they spoke to me about my circumstances, what was happening, and within the 2 weeks I was here where I am now.
The Housing Aid Bond Scheme can actually speed up housing for a lot of service users. In some circumstances people can bring properties to us and we can try and work with the landlords, or alternatively we can offer them the properties which we already have on our waiting list.
We'll have to undertake an assessment for you, so we can see what the options are in your particular circumstances. This can be done in a simple interview at the office.
People that would normally not have a high priority on the waiting list can now access private rented accommodation with speed and ease.
Well, it made a lot of difference financially, because a lot of estate agents want perhaps 2 months rent up front or what have you, and for me it made a hell of a difference.
The bonding scheme is very effective from a landlord's perspective, because it means that we got our deposit beforehand, as you would do as if renting to a private person as well.
Now they have one point of contact within the local authority, and we can actually deal with all housing benefit issues for the landlord.
I feel very secure for the future because the bond is not mine, it belongs to the estate agents. That will go back to Housing Aid if they need to change the flat arrangements or anything. So I feel secure in that knowledge that somewhere else will be available.
With the properties that we're using in the private sector, they are of a very high standard and often in areas where we can't find council properties. So again, the areas which are normally out of the customer's reach, we can now access.
It gave me the opportunity to give somebody else an opportunity that wouldn't otherwise be able to be in private rented accommodation.
I think they were just my saviour. I really don't know what would have happened.
I would recommend it and I would use it again.
Now I've got a place and I'm sure the people could find the same thing.